Welcome to Redline Reality. I'm William, a 20-year military veteran, using my military experience and understanding of geopolitics to read the tea leaves and break down global events, how they affect America and the rest of the world. There are reports of as much as 36,000 Iranian deaths, which the Ayatollah, of course, blames on Trump. The U.S. continues its military buildup in the Middle East and to build a coalition, which currently includes the UK, the UAE, and Israel. The Ayatollah has reportedly retreated into a bunker in Iran. There have also been reports of thousands of foreign fighters funneling into Iran and murdering protesters. All signs point to the Islamic regime living on borrowed time. Let's break it all down.
Redline Reality.
So we'll jump right into it. So the latest headlines, according to the Jerusalem Post, says trucks full of bodies. Iran may have slaughtered 30,000 protesters in 48-hour intense crackdown. And so what the reports are saying is that the most intense of the Iranian pushback against the protesters happened over the 7th and the 8th. And allegedly, there were fewer people out on the streets. My hunch on that is they are taking shelter. They don't want to be out on the streets in case America launches its attack. But here recently, the UN hosted a meeting of the UN Security Council. The Iranians were there. This lady here spoke. She's I guess a defector from Iran. The Iranians were speaking at the time about 3,000 deaths, and this happened. This started one day last week. Today is the 25th of January. But the Iranians were talking about how ISIS fighters came into Iran and their IRGC was fighting against ISIS, and they blamed that for all the deaths. Now, we know that isn't true. We know the Iranians will lie, cheat, and steal whatever they can do to help themselves save face and try to gloss over them killing their citizens. There have also been reports, like I touched on earlier, of foreign fighters entering into Iran, opening up into crowds of protesters with automatic weapons. Where did these foreign fighters go, or where did they come from? Reports state they came from Iraq, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. Go figure, right? So we know that Iran has been propping up the Shia militias in Iraq for many, many years. So it wouldn't surprise me that foreign fighters show up in Iran and start, slaughtering Iranian citizens by the thousands with heavy machine guns. Just an abhorrent scene in Iran. It really, what can you say about that other than your heart goes out to the Iranian people? So, as I stated earlier, there's been a continuous military buildup in the Gulf. And here is a screenshot, according to Microsoft, I think through Yahoo, a map of the Middle East with the naval assets that America has brought potentially to bear on Iran. And in my opinion, we need to do something quick because people are dying on the streets every night. This is a lot different than the operation in Venezuela. There weren't thousands of people or hundreds of people being killed every night. So there wasn't necessarily the sense of urgency like there is, in my opinion, in Iran. But there's the WASP amphibious ready group over in the Mediterranean Sea, along with the USS Roosevelt and the USS Buckley. I'm not too familiar with naval classes of ships and all that other stuff. I guess the Buckley is a cruiser or a destroyer that escorts the Roosevelt. And then we have the Abraham Lincoln carrier strike group in the Gulf of Oman. This slide incorrectly calls it the Roosevelt carrier strike group. And then we have numerous other vessels, I'm sure, in the area that haven't been published. Now, the biggest thing that's been going on over the last week or so is we've been deploying flight after flight after flight of aerial refueler, cargo planes, and fighter jets to the Middle East. So there's a massive tonnage of military firepower that has arrived in the area over the last week or so. And again, we're building a coalition, and it currently involves the UK, the UAE, Israel, that we know of at this point. Now, that is very important because strategically, their bases are very close to Iran. We are halfway across the world. So for those of you that don't know, here's Iran on the map. It says Iran right there in the Middle East. This is Saudi Arabia. This is Iraq, which is a lovely country. And I spent about almost 3 years of my life there off and on. But there's a lot going on in this part of the world always because of the Iranian proxies. You've got the Houthis down here in Yemen. Of course, they are always supporting the Shia militias down here in southern Iraq. They're also responsible for groups of fighters in Syria. So the Iranians always have their hands in the pot, stirring stuff up in the Middle East. So there were also reports over the last few days of the Ayatollah retreating into a bunker in Tehran. So all of this would lead me to believe, and I'm not in the room when these briefings are taking place, so I'm just reading the tea leaves. I'm just bringing my military background and experience into this to kind of give me an idea of what's going on in the bigger picture. So my hunches, my thoughts are that initially when things amped up, we were going to drop a few ordnance on Iran. Then as rhetoric amped up and they escalated their assaults on, we'll call them protesters in the streets, we decided that maybe we should do something a little bit more severe than we did during the 12-day war. Again, this is just a hunch. So my thoughts are that we are going to initiate a regime change in Iran. Now, that doesn't mean boots on the ground. I'm not an interventionalist. I don't want U.S. boots on the ground for extended periods of time. We saw with Iraq, we saw with Afghanistan, what can happen when we go in and remove a dictator or a form of government with no planning on what happens after. We cannot afford to do that again in Iran. So my thoughts are that we will level all assets of the Islamic regime. We will target palaces. We will target military bases. We will target IRGC buildings. We will, of course, target command and control units with the intent of removing the regime, at least removing its power centers and its ability to control the population in Iran. Sorry. I always call it Iran. And I know the Iranians find that offensive, and I apologize. But Donald Trump is a man of action. He is going to evaluate all his options on the table, and he's going to go with the one that most assures success. And in my opinion, that is what's going to most assure success. We've got the Crown Prince, Pahlavi, I'm sorry I mispronounced his name too, in the United States. We need a safe atmosphere so he can go in and form his transitional government. Okay. There can't be bullets flying all over the place and people, getting unalived in the streets of Iran while this is happening. So there has to somewhat be a sense of security. Now, we're not going to do that with boots on the ground, I don't think. But what we will do is we will use U.S. Special Forces. We will use Mossad. We might use some Rangers. And I'm of the opinion that those groups are already on the ground in Iran. Last week, there were some C-17s that took off from Hunter Army Airfield in Savannah, Georgia, and a base in Virginia that houses, we'll just say, guys that make things go boom in the night. Guys you don't want to wake up to standing in the foot of your bed. And those guys left for the Middle East last week. So it is my assumption that if they're not on the ground already, they will be very soon. And I think that what they're going to do is just kind of give a little bit of a push to where the people can go ahead and assume control and power. Then once everything is safe-ish, the Crown Prince will move in and set up his transitional government. But again, it is vital to the Middle East and to our American security that this can't become some drawn out, another quagmire like Iraq and Afghanistan did. So we've got to make sure that it's stable. But again, it's my guess that the Islamic regime are living on borrowed time. So the Ayatollah is in a bunker. It's been covered on many channels on YouTube. And by the way, Maya Tusi and Goldie Jamani, I believe is how you pronounce her name. If I messed either one of those pronunciations up, I apologize. They've been on this since the very beginning. And it's been pointed out that it doesn't matter how deep a bunker the Ayatollah hides in. We have heavy pieces of metal that can pound their way down to the deepest depths to reach the Ayatollah in his bunker. So he's living on borrowed time. Stand by. Things might get really hot here in the next few days. Again, with all this buildup in the Middle East, there's a tremendous tension. The Iranians are throwing empty threats out there, talking about how they can attack and sink the Abraham Lincoln whenever they want to. I would tell them, good luck. That's an interesting strategy. We'll see how it works out to you or how it works out for you. But I will go ahead and wrap this one up. I want to keep these short. In the next video, what I'll do is I will break it down on the effects of the Iranian proxies if the Islamic regime falls. So if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe to the channel. Again, Redline Reality. This is a new channel I'm starting up. It's tough to get a YouTube channel going up off the ground. This is my first video on this channel, and I'm trying to make it polished and professional. I'm still working with tools, so please bear with me, and I promise you each video will get better. So again, thank you for watching. Until the next one, I hope everybody has a good one. God bless the people of Iran.
Redline Reality.